Hi everyone. Today I'm going to be talking with Laura Creedle, and the name of her book, and I'm going to read this because I want to get it right, is called The Love Letters of Abelard and Lily. And I'm going to make sure when I talk to her that I said that right. Abelard. But anyway, it's a book that basically middle schoolers can read. It says 12 and up, and I actually love young adult novels. I mean, I don't know if you do, but I do, and I love talking to the authors that write them because you think it'd be so easy, but actually making it easy for a middle schooler is pretty hard. So I love talking to them about how they do it and how they accomplish the storylines, and this is such a cute book for kids, and it's about a girl who has ADHD, and it's about her struggles with it, I could say, and I think that in middle school, like, and it's becoming more and more common. And so I really think that a lot of middle school girls and guys would love reading this book. But anyway, I'm really excited to talk to her. It is her debut novel, which I seems to be the theme this week. But I do love talking to authors about their first books. So anyway, we will talk to Laura. Hi, everyone. Today I am so excited to be speaking with author Laura Creedle. And if you are watching us on YouTube, you can actually see us talk. But there's also a podcast in case you don't want to watch us and you just want to listen to us. And she is holding up her book, which is awesome because I'm just going to read it. So you just hold it there. The Love Letters of Abelard and Lily. And this is her debut novel. And it is a YA book, which I love YA. I'm a homeschooling mom. I homeschooled all 6 of my children, and so I love YA books. So thank you, Laura.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, when I saw this book, I was so intrigued. I don't know. Sometimes it's the cover. Sometimes it's, I don't know, different thing people recommended. I have all kinds of different ways I find this. But when I began reading it, I was like, yes, a YA, because I haven't read one in a while. So I was really happy about it. And there's just something that really makes me happy about YA books. And I don't know why, but do you find a lot of adults say that to you?
I think they do, and I think for one thing, we're all busy, so they tend to be a quick read,
Yeah, even
and
though it's long. I mean, it's just as long as a normal book. It's 350 some pages, but I do see what you mean because when I was reading it, I kind of felt like I could relax into it. Nothing hard to read. Nothing, that's going to make you be like, I have to reread this page because I have no idea what they said. And
right.
that is a craft on your part because you have to write. I'm serious, like you have to write a book that is easy and fun, yet it's a topic, and there are these 2 teenagers that I would have devoured this as a teenager. Let me just tell you, okay? Like, because I read so much as a teenager. This would have been right on because when we're teenagers and we just love angst.
Yes, this book is very angsty. I get it. It is a very teen angst. Although, as an ADHD adult, I feel the angst sometimes. So it comes from a place.
Well, I loved how you described it because I have to tell you that I have my ex-husband has ADHD. He was on Ritalin his entire childhood. And more and longer. And I don't know that I ever understood it the way you explained it with Lily. You did an amazing job and since you do have ADHD, I don't know that people that have it actually can understand it in the way that you wrote it. Because isn't it kind of a hard thing to understand too? Like,
yeah, I don't think I could have written this book when I was younger for that reason. It took a certain amount of distance, and
right.
when you write ADHD, you spend years, with devices and drugs and things that help you accommodate. But so I had to kind of go back into the mindset I had when I was young, where if I hit a roadblock, instead of thinking it through or just relaxing or counting to 10, I would just which is what Lily does. She just, she gets angry at school and she leaves. So that was kind of me when I was that age. So
interesting. And I do, I can only go from him because of how he's explained it to me. But he tells me Unlike Lily, he loved Ritalin. Okay.
Yeah.
Now they have all kinds of different Ritalin is old school ADHD medication that they gave, back in the 70s and 80s. But he loved his so much. He said it actually allowed him to have a thought that.
Yeah. Well, I agree. I understand that too. And I don't ever want to be specific about drugs because, I don't want to feel like
Right.
it's become an issue, and I don't want to feel like I'm endorsing drug therapy or, a lot of people choose not to do drugs, and I respect that as well. But yeah, I actually, I couldn't do math in high school, and I took Ritalin in my early 20s, and I went from like failing algebra all the way through calculus. So to me, it was kind of magical. So I get that feeling that it's just it allows you to focus on things that just you aren't capable of.
That maybe, yeah. And he was also like Lily, which is it's kind of interesting. But anyway, he's also dyslexic, but he didn't find out until he went to college and got it diagnosed.
Oh, wow.
I'm talking about in the 80s, people didn't know what they know now. You can barely make it out of elementary school if you have some sort of learning disability. They will diagnose you. Nowadays, but back then, not so much. They didn't really know. And I did appreciate the fact that you didn't mention medication because nowadays, like I said, there is so much. She could have been taking one of anything because there's more, out there. And so I've always, because of him, I always look to my children to say, which child is like him? Like which child? And you know what? On a spectrum, don't we all just? I mean, I know as I'm getting older. I read every day. I read a book a day. Okay. But I cannot sit down and read I want to sit down for an hour, but that doesn't happen anymore.
Isn't that funny? I thought about this the other day that when I was in my early 20s, of course, no internet, TV wasn't good.
Right, exactly.
All these things. But I sat down over, the course of 2 or 3 days where I had 4 days when nothing to do, and I read the Brothers Karamazov, which is, I don't think I could do that now. If I were stranded somewhere, but you'd have to turn off your internet. You'd have to. It just doesn't happen. So I think that's one of the appeals of YA is that it's not the Brothers Karamazov, and we're sort of on that fast cycle for better or for worse. So.
Yes. I love, first of all, like I said, teenage angst. I love the love story because didn't we all go through, as unique as she is, she's the same. It's like she has unique problems, but we all had problems. Okay.
Right.
And how she goes about it. Of course, we didn't have texting, but I really like that now that authors are putting texting in their books because it is how we live. So I always thought it would be interesting to see how it would be incorporated. Like, how do you say it? How do you say texting now? Or, but I do love, your texting was very well done because that's how we talk now.
What's funny is when I started this, and this was a kind of a thing at like the 2010, 11, 12, 13, people were abbreviating,
Right.
And that was before, autofill. So, and I know a lot of people who wrote books that were like full of abbreviations, and they're kind of don't work now because nobody texts like that anymore. And I kind of tried to keep it very authentic to their voice, but also, to incorporate the letters of Abelard and Heloise in a way that would work for teenagers because it's so intense and emotional and immediate, which is, how teenagers are. But I was trying to think about how is this going to look in 5 years, texting wise.
You know what? You can't. Yeah, exactly. It's like it's today. I don't know what is going to happen, but I was thinking as I'm reading this, I'm like, you know what? I'm kind of glad that we didn't have texting in high school because I would have been one of those people carrying around going, okay, it took him 3 minutes to text. Okay, what does that mean? All right, 2 minutes. It only took him 2 minutes.
Does that? Like, why? Why did you get back to me?
What? Right, it was 5 minutes. What was he thinking while he was waiting that 5 minutes to text? Like, as an adult, we don't really read that, but I would have been that child that would have,
Yeah,
it would have drove me literally insane. So I'm really happy that I was.
and that's also a very, very ADHD thing. She, I'm not going to, no spoilers, but at some point in the book, she texts something that's very personal and very
Yes.
hard, and he doesn't get back to her quickly because
Right.
it's a lot for him to absorb or anybody to absorb. And so she kind of goes, "We're done. Bye." She's
Right.
just like, "Oh, if that's how it is." And of course, I think teenagers are like that, but I think ADHD people are like that.
Probably even. Yeah.
Super responsive, super like, "Okay, fine, if that's where we're at."
that would be me too, though. I would be like, okay, well, I guess we're not friends anymore, and I would have shut it off. I would have turned it away. I would have been like, I'm gonna shut my phone off and see who notices, and then turn it back on and see nobody cared. It wasn't even.
I think it's easy to get that way, about everything. Instagram.
Yeah.
Just like, who loves me? I don't know.
Okay, so what I loved about this as a homeschooling mom, not only do you incorporate homeschooling in this book in a minute way, but it's there, okay, because of her dad, and I love that. I love that he was part of this like co-op home. I mean, because we're kind of odd people, and I know a lot of people that do that. I did not, but I do know people that did co-ops, and they work.
I did know a group of people who are, and actually they're a group of professors who live in a place where the school district isn't great.
Yep.
And they have a homeschooling co-op. So the kids who come out of there are just, they're ahead of the game because they have professors for teachers.
Yeah, I wish it would have been in my area because my children unfortunately had to go through me. So there are weird things that they know, and like my older children are in their 20s now. They'll be like, "Mom, I knew the name of that song you used to play and taught us about." Like like they know odd random things.
Right.
Whatever I thought was important that day, then they like come out of it knowing stuff. But what I loved about this is you've introduced this book, okay, that both of them have read, and it's an old book, and I don't even know anything about it. So I was gonna look it up, and then I'm like, no, I'm just gonna have you tell me about it.
Okay, it's a strange book to reference, and I don't even know where the idea of it came from. Although I started out writing about ADHD, and I knew that they were going to have a romance, but I'm not really a romance writer, which is strange to say. So I was looking at source material through like ages of great love letters. So I stumbled upon this one, and I just kind of fell in love with how emotional the letters were, and how both smart. They were very, very smart people, and they talked a lot about their intellectual processes, but also how just deeply passionate and how much they felt like they were the only two people in the world who understood each other, which is really what I was looking for. It's like if you have two people, they meet each other, and they're the only two people who understand each other. I think that's really compelling. One of my favorite things to think about is Isaac Newton, and I think it's Spinoza. I think it's Spinoza invented calculus at the same time, and they fought over who invented it.
Right.
And I always thought, well, if there are only two people in the world who understand calculus, they should have been best friends. It's crazy that they did not hang out and talk about calculus, because you can imagine people looking at, area under the curve and going, what? I don't understand a word you're saying, Isaac Newton. So to me, that's like the most compelling thing in the world, when you feel like you're completely alone and no one understands you, and then you meet someone who just completely understands you. So
yeah,
that's where the source material came from.
Well, yes, exactly, and that they could speak that language. They both knew a language that they could communicate, because also with
Abelard.
Abelard. How did I say that again? Abelard. So he has a different issue. Okay, he has like a sensory. What was I thinking today? There was a word I was coming up with.
He has a sensory processing delay.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And so he has his thing, and it's like these two flawed people, and aren't we all? Like, don't we all have things, trying to, like, I love when she says, and this is not spoiler because I'm not even going to spoiler, but when she was like, well, let's just figure it out. Like, let's just, and isn't that what I was thinking, and saying it through teenagers, it's like, isn't that what we all do? Let's just figure it out. Like, what makes you comfortable? What makes me comfortable? You know?
Yeah, yeah, and I think I mean that's why young love is so compelling. Is you kind of invent it from scratch, you know.
Right.
And it's an interesting thing to write about, having people who wander into a relationship and have no idea what they're doing, you know. So
Right. So
they
then this leads into my favorite quote in the book. Which is, and you know what? I always think that I'm like unique in picking quotes, and then I'll go on Goodreads and see like 10 people say, oh my gosh, this quote was just amazing. And this is what happened when I did look it up today on Goodreads. So just so you know, a lot of people love this quote. So I'm sure you know it. But for everybody out there, so they're texting. This is a text. And, she's trying to explain to him how she feels. And he says, you are a fractured snowflake, a pattern repeated in infinite detail in a world full of salt crystals. You're not broken. You're perfect. And when I was reading it on my Kindle, I put my phone down. I'm like, oh, that was so beautiful. I mean, and you reference it in different ways throughout the book. You come back to it a lot through her, and I was just wondering, like, well, what made you write that? Like, how did you think? Were you, because I always want to know this, and some authors are like, I don't know, I was writing and then it just came out. But did you think about it, or did it just come out?
I think because the answer is sort of both. She refers to herself as broken, you know, and I think when you do have some when you are neurodivergent, it's something that comes up. You just feel like there's normal, and then there's you. And part of wanting to write about this was wanting to just dive into that, feeling like, oh, and part of when you have drug therapies, you're always trying to get to some sort of baseline normal, but nobody knows what that is, and nobody's really normal. So it's something that, you think about, where am I going? What am I shooting for? Is there normal? I'm broken. So it's sort of a parenthetical thing that anytime you do a drug to get to a normal, you have to confront the fact that you are not normal, whatever that means. And so I think, I started writing about her more than I started with the romance. The romance kind of grew. The romance was really the last thing I wrote. And so she'd spent the whole novel referring to herself as broken and Frankenstein. And I thought, well, what is the thing that he could say to her that would not to her? and that's it. You're not broken. Fractals are not broken. They are just complex, And I think if you are neurodivergent, thinking of your brain as complex and interesting is so much better than thinking you're broken. So
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah, and I think that even if, as a teenager too, you look around, and I found this going to class reunions, okay, and actually talking to my former classmates that I didn't know in between. It's like you graduated with them, and then then you see them at your 25th reunion, and you haven't seen them in between, and you start saying, like, when I was in high school, my dad was very ill. And so I was going through that, right? And I remember talking to somebody and saying, when I was in high school, I was going through we had a pretty tragic situation at home. And they were like, me too. And I'm like, why didn't we ever talk about that? Like, like you were, but you feel abnormal. You feel like you're walking through those hallways. Nobody gets it. Nobody understands. You don't talk about it because you don't want to talk about your family situation. She didn't really talk about her family situation. You just don't. You have she had her very close friend, but really, and then you go back and you find out, like, oh, you had problems too. Oh, your family. I remember this one guy was like, well, my parents were getting divorced. I'm like, oh my God. really, I had no idea, like everybody was dealing with something. And I love how you brought that out in this book. Like I felt like I could really relate to that. Like they thought they were the only people in the school, but they weren't the only people. They found each other first of all.
Yeah, they don't know, since they've known each other for so long, I was very careful to put a scene in where she sees him in junior high school, and he basically has a meltdown, and she walks by. Everybody walks by. It's junior high school. It's like nobody's really very empathetic or centered in junior high school. So she just kind of walks by him having a meltdown and just shrugs and keeps moving.
Yeah. Well,
everybody does.
You know what, Laura? It was a great debut novel. I just have to tell you. Like, I would have never been able to tell. I mean, I love reading these first novels, and it's like, wow, it could have been your 10th. Okay. There's no way of telling that at all. And of course, which leads me to my next question. You leave it very open-ended at the end. That's all I'm going to say. So is there, I know you have listed on your website, your next book is called Pool Boy. It's about something totally different. Are you ever thinking about going back and revisiting Lily and Abelard?
This kind of shocked me because a lot of people are like, "What happens? What happens here?" And I really did not expect that. Part of me, and it gets back to not starting out as a romance. It started out as being about her ADHD and her dyslexia. I wanted people to think. I wanted it to be very open-ended so that people would think about it and I want it to be a little unsettling, and I think it ended up being a little unsettling. I just didn't expect that it would be unsettling about their relationship. I mean, I did kind of assume that they would keep going at their way, that what he says about texting, and in a weird sort of way does reference the letters of Abelard and Heloise, because it's not a happy story. They don't end up together, but they continue. They love each other and they continue writing to each other. As life.
If I get a vote, I say, write what you want, but revisit and write what you want for a year or two, and then bring them back. And
all right. I will take that under consideration. I can, I honestly would love to see Lily go to college because she doesn't think she will, and
I would love to.
Abelard is clearly headed to college, so maybe they end up at school together.
Right, and we don't want to say anything because we're not. I want everybody to read this the way I did, but I'm like, I had it on my Kindle, and I'm like, okay, wait, there's no like epilogue on the. So then I'm like, okay, she'll just write another one. That's what's going to happen here. We'll just have a whole series. We'll have them till they're 90. We'll just know what happens to them.
I've never even considered that. I am kind of like surprised that so many people are like, what happens next? What happens next?
That should right there. Your fans are telling you. And as a debut novel, for fans to tell you to write more, I think that, that is the highest compliment you can get.
All right. So. Well, I may revisit after I get through the novel I'm working on. So.
Well, okay. When does Pool Boy come out?
You know what? I am in process with that. So I have not, there's no date release. I'm still working on it. It's going very well. It really is. I will just say what inspired me here and kind of leave it at this. I ended up volunteering to be a foster mother for a toddler, and it wasn't something I had planned to do. It was situational, and it happened very quickly, and wasn't prepared. My daughter was in high school, and because our foster daughter was, the child of a young mother, she started calling my daughter mommy, and it kind of broke her heart. And I felt like then it wasn't really my plan, but I threw her into the situation where in some ways she was mommy and she was 16. And I thought that's a novel right there, to what happens when you suddenly find yourself in this position and you hadn't planned it, and it's not even your kid, and you're underprepared. So that was really the start of that novel. For that, there's a lot more that goes on in there.
Well,
But
I can't wait to read it, and I hope you will come back and talk about it because I'm, you know,
I
I
would
love
love
it.
to.
That would be awesome.
So great talking to you.
I know it's been so much fun, and I love your book, so I really would like to talk about it again. So you just let me know. You know where to find me, and you let me know when it's coming out, and I will test read it for you. I'll read it. We'll put it out. We'll put the video out when you're doing your promo for it, and it'll be fun.
Excellent. I love that.
So everyone, you can get this book on everywhere. You can get it everywhere. I'm going to put the links below so you can find it, and it's doing really well, and I'm so happy for you. I love seeing this for authors. I love seeing the response, all the Amazon reviews, the Goodreads. I mean, that must feel so good for you and so encouraging to keep going, you know?
I am, and that's what I'm. The holiday is over. I'm back to writing. So,
Oh, that's awesome. Right. Well, thank you so much for talking with me. This has been so much fun. And yeah, keep me posted, please.
Thank you. So, once again, thanks for talking.
Yes. Have a great day, Laura.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Everyone, and I'm back. And now you have seen that amazing interview or heard on my podcast with Laura Creedle, and I'm so happy that I was able to talk to her. She's amazing. Her book, debut novel, it's doing great things on Amazon. We had so much fun talking about ADHD and teenage angst, and I had lots of fun, and she's amazing. She's got another book coming out. I'm so excited. And I just want everybody to see that I am wearing my Fab Fit Fun poncho. And I'm doing that for Kara and Annie because we got Fab Fit Fun boxes for Christmas. And it's amazing. I love it so much. And you see all those videos on Facebook of people opening their boxes, and it is that much fun. So anyway, thank you again for watching. And if you enjoyed watching or listening to Laura and I, you can hit like under here on YouTube and subscribe. And please subscribe to the new podcast. Thanks, everyone.